Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world today on this sunny Thursday. My name is Steve Robinson. I am one of the business development guys from Galarath. With me is Keith Garland, training and support manager. Our details are on the screen should you have any questions about what you are about to see. So today's session, again, about 20 minutes of your time today, is we're going to give you, in some of the other sessions we've been quite specific about how to use certain features within SEER for manufacturing. Well, today we're going to give you a bit more of a general overview of and an orientation of how you would start a new project, the things that you need to consider, and the various data entry tabs that you have available to you, the various features and functions that you have available to you, so that you get a good feel for a general broad capability within the tool. So we might touch on some of the things that we've already seen, something like reports and charts that we saw in one of the other sessions. But today is meant to provide that first stepping stone into I need to build a new estimate for a thing, and how do I go about doing that, and what are the things that are there to help me do that. So, as is the case, I will hand over to Keith to give you the necessary walkthrough. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you, Steve. Hello, everybody. So today, like Steve said, we're going to start from a position of a new project. We're going to go through the interface, look at the GUI, look at some of the buttons, the bells, the whistles, and all the things that will make your life easier and things that's best you understand and get a feel for when using SEER for manufacturing at the beginning. So I'm going to click on New Estimate. So first thing, we have a button here, New Estimate. We can go File, we can go New Estimate, and we will come to this screen. So this is where we put in our project name, our assembly number, our component number, whatever you're estimating. So give it a name. So I'm going to call this Project X, kg, and we can work in euros together for our European colleagues, and click on OK. So we're starting our project. Now, yesterday, in one of our previous webinars, we went through setting up the configuration. And just a reminder, the project parameters are set here. I won't go through them again, but please go back and watch the setting up the project parameters dialog. So we're going to be working in euros. We've got learning curves set up. We're going to do part-based processing. I'm not looking at this. 2020, everything's fine. Click on OK. Our 4-pane configuration is set. We saved our configuration, so we have the reports and charts we had. We have our quick estimate options that we preferred. So to start a project then, at this level, we're not going to get any cost until we start putting in the building blocks of our estimate. So these are under the Work Elements tab, and under the Work Elements tab, we can insert a work element, we can right-click, we can insert a work element. So there's two different ways of doing it again. So I tend to use this one. Click on Insert Work Element. So here we're asked for a name. It's already got my name initials into it, and this is the list of processes available to you. One caveat here is the arrow, which was developed by the partners of the F-35 Lightning, the JSF, is an additional plugin which is available to you. So if you're not into aircraft, aerospace, composites and things such as that, and you may not need it, then the basic SEER MFG is available without it. But it's got some very good processes in there and is well worth a look at. So I can put in a work element, and I'll just put a fabrication work element in, and I'll call it a name. So op 010 fab. And at this point, we can select from knowledge bases. So if we have knowledge bases we have built, and best recommendation is to start building your own knowledge bases when you have the time. So I'm just going to pick on fabrication with, what should we do? Brake press aluminium. Okay, so click on OK. So the model's come in and it's brought some information that the knowledge base has gathered. And we'll start looking at the general tab to start with. So the general tab is common across all the processes. The only one that's going to change is the process specific. Obviously, the questions here are orientated to fabrication. If it was machining, they would be different. If it was composite, if it's aero fit up, they're all relative to the process that you've just selected when you inserted the work element. Tooling tab is common, inspection rework, as well as part mark and package. So let's focus on the general tab. So this is where we're going to really start to set it up. So we need to tell the model how many are we going to build of this item. So I think we're going to build 100. Nice round number. So we double click it. The dialog box will come up, and note here we have the ability to write notes. So this is 2020 production total. Now I can expand this one, notes and attachments, and I can put in a date and timestamp. I can insert file links, so I can attach something, and I'll just select this one here, attach that one. I can attach this file as well. Okay, so I've got a link to it, I've got the file attached. Click on OK. It's kind of irrelevant, but I just wanted you to know you can put all of these notes in here and keep the audit trail of the why and the where and whatever you've done to do that. Click on OK, and you'll see that we have a little note here, which is a bit jumbled, but it's there. We have a paperclip telling us we have an attachment, and our production quantity was the one thing I should have done. I never set. So we're building 100 units. Setup amortization is the batch quantity. So how many are we going to build before we break the machine down, do something else, and then come back and do a second batch for this? So for example, if you leave this at 0, MFG believes you're going to do the entire batch in a single operation, which means you'll get one setup, which will be spread across the 100 units. If you're going to do them in batches of 25, then what you're going to do, you're going to get 4 setups. You're going to produce 25, break down, do something else, set up, do another 25, breakdown, until you've created your 100 components. So that's one thing we can do. So then we have the direct labor rate, which has come in. It's got chevrons around it, so it's been inherited from the system. So this is generated rates by ourselves, and we can go in here and we can edit these. We can come out, we can uncheck this box here, and we can say my company works on 65 euros and my setters will get 70 euros. And that's specific. Now, one of the things I spoke about when setting up the project parameters yesterday was options, set project parameters with these two here. So if I check these boxes now, and when I click on OK, if we look at this area here, we can see, oh, it's all changed. So we have now the ability to put in here that the man is being paid 15. Direct machine facility rate is going to be 25, and the indirect overhead rate is 25. And we're building up our rate of 65. He's working one machine at a time, so this is direct operator. So if he's working 2 machines, you can put 0.5 in there. And the same here for the setter. So he's being paid 20. Same overhead. Same facility rate. And in they go. So that's one other way of doing it. And the third way of going into it is you have the option here of going into using the labor rate calculator, clicking details, and in here you can build a rate specific to that process. So if you know the information like the equipment investment cost, salvage rate, interest rate, installation cost, insurance, depreciation, amortization, years it's going to work, scrap availability, utilization, electricity, power, consumables, cost repair, and so on and so forth, all the way through. How many operators am I going to have? Setup, skilled, semi-skilled operators, how many shifts are we going to work? And then we have a factory data where we can tell it how much of the shop floor we're going to use, building costs, shop floor areas, staff, company cars, and all the overheads that go into making a business. And we can set this up accordingly. Difficult to obtain a lot of this information, especially if you're doing a should cost estimate based on a supplier, unless they have an open book and are prepared to give you this level of information. So the other thing we can do, we have some default factories set here, and we can say we're going to do this one in a sheet metal shop large. Click on OK, click on OK, and the rates come in, and we change the values based upon the overhead cost. Okay, so we have that capability as well. So single line, just enter a single value. Options, set project parameters, turn these two on. I'll just turn them off for tidiness. Or we can go in here and we can double click, use the calculator, go to details, make the changes, and so on, and it will come in with the labor rate. So that's a key one. Now, when you don't know the labor rates, it's a good place to start. And obviously, if you're doing internal costings, you'll probably have a known rate that you need to apply internally. So that's not a problem for you. So we just enter that as a single line item. Production experience and optimization. So this is where we start to see for the first time our least, our likely, and our most, our 3-point inputs, which the model will use when it starts to look at Monte Carlo analysis. So production experience and optimization. Always use the help. Have a read of the help. See where you think you sit. Are you a market leader in the production of this type of component? Are you beginning your journey as an engineer, and so on? So normally speaking, in most shops, I would say most people are pretty good. They're going to be set in the high range. So here we go. At least 3 years production experience, well maintained, etc. But some people are going to be really good. So they're going to be maybe in the very high range, at least 5 years experience. And then some maybe not so good. They're going to be keen, maybe. They may be apprentices. They may be semi-skilled. So there's going to be a range of capabilities. And I would always put a range in here for setting up this one to start with. Again, product classification is what are we going to build? So again, refer to the help. And if you're Mr. Boeing or Mr. Airbus, you're going to be making very high parts such as this, and you're going to set this to the top. If you're doing something for Mr. Ford, Mr. Vauxhall, well, we're going to be somewhere lower down the list, and then maybe even lower if you're doing some agricultural equipment, something that doesn't need to be set so high. So today we're going to have a aerospace component. Click on OK, and we've set it. And now again, we could put a note. So the other thing you'll notice, I started from a knowledge base. So anything I change from a knowledge base setting is going bold. So you've got this instant visual verification that something's happening. Here is labor calibration. Now that is a linear multiplier, which was captured with the knowledge base. So whoever set that up deemed we needed an additional 20% for rest and recovery, talking about the soccer games and the football. But here, when I start a project, if I'm not using a knowledge base I'm comfortable with, I put this back to 1. I start from a position of neutrality, and I just think start from 1, see what the numbers are, and then go back into the calibration. And I have done a calibration webinar. So there is also available to you to see the things to look at whilst calibrating the job, which does include experience, product classification, calibration, and some of the other things that need to be considered. We have learning turned on, so available to us is the ability to enter prior production units. Now, if you're familiar with the learning curve theory, your T1, your first article, is going to be a lot more expensive than your second, your third, your fourth, your fifth, and it's going to come down the curve based upon a percentage slope. Now that slope, the first ones are very expensive, getting cheaper, cheaper, cheaper. By putting in here prior production units, you will see coming down the curve that you can actually save an awful lot of money if you think that this company has made us 1,000 cleats before. I don't want to pay them learning again. It's going to be basically the same process, the same tooling, but I'm not going to pay that learning a second time. So in here, you would enter what you believe to be the amount they've made, what they produced, and it could be as high as 1,000, it could be 10, but either way, you're bringing the model down the learning curve, so your average production unit cost will come down by utilizing prior production units. And when you're in negotiation, it's a good thing to consider because it's well worth it and you'll have a genuine saving. Step learning here. Now, this is coming from the knowledge bases again, and it's not an essential parameter. Best to have one in there to give you the slope of the curve. But what I like to do, I've got 4 batches of 25, so I'm going to put 4 lots in here. Fabrication, I think probably going to be an 85 curve. I'm going to do my second step, 25, 85. Third step, 25. And now maybe I'll ramp up to 90. And my final step, again, I'll put that at 25 on a, just be different, a 92 curve. So we're giving them learning, we're going to come up the steps, and this works in conjunction with the production lot report. And when we have some numbers in here, we do have some numbers in here. So let's just double click. So with the reports and charts, you can obviously resize and remove your windows around like this, or you can put it back and you can double click a tab, and here we come up and we can see, now I have numbers because I had a knowledge base, so something was populated on the process specific tab. So this is what the production lot report will give you, and I find it a very useful chart. So because I have a 25 step here, my first unit of 1 to 25 with an 85% curve is giving me a unit cost of 1274. The second 25, the 26th to the 50th unit, are going to be 966. Now, as the slope comes down, it gets shallower, the impact is less. So it's now going down to 887. And then finally, my last one is 853. Now, the beauty of that is you can use this for price breaks. So this could be the first unit, 1 to 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, 50 to 100. So you can actually build this exactly as you want to give a scientific price break for various batch sizes. And it's also important that when your salesmen are going off selling, that they say, or procurement, we're going to buy 100. Oh no, we're only going to buy 10. No, you can't have it for the same price. And this is why. So that's what that one's giving you there. If you wanted to, you can add labor wraps and fees at the bottom. So if you want to emulate a subcontract price by adding profit, material uplift, labor uplifts, we can do that here also. And also the probability represents the most likely point on the graph here. So it's the top of the rally curve, and it's your most likely estimate. There's a 50% chance you'll be under, 50% chance you'll be over, but it's your most likely point, and that's what the model will give you as a default. So the only other thing that's missing on here is if we go options, set project parameters again, and we turn on MultiCurrency, click on OK, It then gives you the option at the bottom, which was hidden, of now changing this to say this piece is going to be made in China, the next one is going to be made in Mexico, the third one is going to be made in France, the fourth one is going to be made in Germany, and finally the assembly is going to be back somewhere, maybe in the USA. So that's what happens when you turn on multi-currency. You have this ability. It's going to default to the project set. So at the moment, our project parameters are defaulting to euro. So at the top here, everything will be at euros being reported. And if you look at the reports and charts, which we can touch on now, so we have reports here. We can select the reports and we can choose the ones here. This is the ones we're looking at. So any ones with the checkbox we have across the bottom here. Operation details, lot tooling, production lot is open, and so on. So this is the reports and charts you can look at if you want to. And the same here, and I'll open it a different way by right-clicking on the tab, choose available charts, and again, ensure that you have everything that you want to do here to look at. So this is what we have, and this is the general tab, which is common across all parameters. The process-specific tab will now start to vary, and we will go into this in more detail when we look at the individual work elements one at a time. But to say the least, you have to tell the model what is the source of the material. This is a flat rectangular piece of sheet. What is the size of the material? What is the width? What is the thickness? And the model will now instantly start generating you a material cost. What is the material type? The materials are all held in the ini file, material.ini file, and you can add your own materials to this. The cost will come in from the ini file. It will be escalated by the inflation in your base year, whatever you're using. And then it's a case of putting in the process steps required to do that component. Now, like I say, we'll do one for each of the work element types on another day. This is more about the interface. So if I come back to the general tab, one of the things I wanted to look at with this with you is we have the ability now within our parameters tab, we can lock parameters. So that one and that one, I'm going to lock it. I don't want anybody to change it. I can also, what can I hide? Let's just hide my steps. So I'm going to make it nice and tidy, and I'm going to remove all of this, and I'm going to hide the parameters. So they're still there, and I would hide that one as well. So now all we're really interested in when we start this project, we don't want people changing this. This is my company specific. We don't want to do that. And we got this here. So all they got to do now is look at the production quantity and setup size. We can also unhide and obviously click everything, and they're all going to come back. So that's just a nice feature. And likewise, we can unlock R2, click on OK, and it goes back to how it was before. And that's sorted here. So that's one of the nice features to do with this one. Now, the other thing to mention is when I insert work elements, I can right click, insert a work element. I can put a new one in here. And let's say I'm going to do some machining this time. And it's machining. And I don't want to start from a knowledge base, but I do want to copy the common parameters. Now, this is a key one. If you remember to do this, what happens is everything that's common from this one to the one before it is going to be copied in. So if I click on OK, so my machining operation has come in, but it's also brought all of this. Now, that's great because you don't want to have to re-enter all of this information, and it's captured that. So we're really good and everything's fine about that. So that's one of the nice features available to inserting work elements and copying common parameters. The other way of inserting is copy, insert paste, and you get a direct copy of that one again. I'll do that again. Copy, insert paste. Now, I want to put that somewhere else, so I can go work elements, and I can move that down to the bottom. I can demote it, and it's going to say, hey ho, you haven't got a roll up. Say yes, I want to put in a work element, and I'm going to call this FabOps. Click on OK. So the roll up comes in and it demotes it as child, parent and child, and this is going to roll up into this one here. So to make this consistent, I may come up here and I'll insert a work element, and I'll call this machining ops. Click on OK. So this time I have 3 to demote, but I'm going to highlight them and I'm going to grab them by the little symbol at the end, pick them up and drop them in there. So I've now put them all in machining ops, fabrication ops, and they're all now children of this one. So this brings us back to one of the other ones. So if we come back up to here and we look at our quick estimate, our average production unit cost is going to be 53.47. And I come to this one and my total cost is 53.47. Now, what I've done that for, so you can now see what this one is. So quantity per next higher assembly, I have 4 of these per aircraft. So I put in here 4, click on OK. So now I look at this one, 53.47. Now my cost is multiplied by 4. So this cost is being rolled up into this one, and this one, and this one gets rolled up into the project level. So when you're doing multiples, insert the work element once, and then do the quantity per next higher assembly as 4, and then that will get carried up. So here we see the unit cost, here we see the total cost. So that's just one of the things to be aware of when we're doing it. So that was one of the parameters I'd missed there. So across the top, I can say we don't need that one. I can delete that work element. It's going to give me a warning. Click on OK, and that will disappear. I can say, let me just do something quickly. I'm going to make this one out of another material. So I'm going to make this one out of something very different, titanium alloys. Okay, I don't have any cost or time, so I'm just going to put a process-specific operation in, just to show what I'm trying to achieve. Operation here. I'm going to end mill rough. I'm going to take off 80% and click, and we now have a weight. We need to put some material in, some sizes. So we're going to put this in as right. So now we're going to start generating some costs. So we've got this one. And now I'll just show you that you can now press the Shift key down and copy this down through here and copy everything. Right click, copy, click on OK, come here. I can paste that. So now they're the same. I'm going to go back and change this one again to titanium because I overwrote it. Click on OK. So now we have 2 different operations, 2 different materials, and we're not sure, so we can set a reference. So under parameters, I can set a reference up here, give it a name. We can set 5 references. Come to this one. Oh, wasn't a good choice to make it out of titanium. So what we can do, we can go work elements and we can exclude it. So now we look at the cost of this one of 271, this one of 1065, and up here it's 1065 because that one has now been excluded. We've left it in there to demonstrate we've done a what if, an alternative process, a different material, whatever the justification was to try something else. We've covered that, and now we've entered, excluded that work element. So we can delete work elements, we can insert work elements, we can exclude them, we can pre-mote demote, move up and down for the manipulation. Reloading knowledge bases, if you want to change a knowledge base, simply here. We haven't got one on this one, so that would allow you to change it. It's basically no different to just double clicking and clicking on change here. Other ones across the top, we can expand and collapse box. We can expand, we can collapse the branches, we can view attachments, and this will show us where we have it. So this was our one, and we can come here and we can remove it, we can open it, and we'll click on remove to get rid of it, and that's gone. We can close and so on. Scenarios are going to be covered on another one. We can merge sub-projects. So if we have other projects, we've got a large assembly being produced, we can have our colleagues working on other parts of that project, and we can come here, we can merge sub-project from file or from the database. We can find something, let's go to desktop, sample files, MFG files, and we'll look for something nice and simple. Let's do a hand layout radome, and we're going to insert that. Oh, and there we go. It's warning us. Yes, okay, we'll accept it. Click on OK, and now we've inserted another work element by merging. So that's pretty cool. So you can all work on different parts of a project, and somebody at the end with the responsibility of bringing it all together can merge them by using the merge from the menu bar there. Home tab, we can undo, we can calculate now. So if this is a little bit gray sometimes in your estimate, it means it hasn't quite calculated everything. So just press the calculate now button. It's no different to pressing F9. Inserting, deleting work elements again, demoting, move up and down. Setting references, clearing references. So we have a reference here. We can clear the reference and that's gone. We can set a reference, give it a name. We can make a change. Come here, change this to 3000, click on OK. We have a change. Now I can go right click, come up there, right click. There should be revert to reference. Maybe it's because it's not in the same work element, but there is revert to reference, which should put that back. We can tag items. So we can make things red, yellow, and so on. So we can make things different colors. We can color code them. We can right click. We can tag work elements, and we can do that as well if we need to. Now, I quite often do that when I have a problem within a work element. I might think that I'm not sure about the weight. I can right click, I can tag it, I can make it red. So now I can come back and I know that I've got to check my red ones, my green ones are finished, and so on. So that's one way we can do it. Finding is just like Control F. So it's just going to give us a search. Let's look for core. What's that one there? Why did it find it? It's looking over there. Not sure what it's doing. The other thing you can do is you can be here, you can press M. It goes down through looking for parameters. Pressing the M. Okay, so that's that one there as well. Clearing reference tabs, parameters themselves. So one of the things we can do here, we can change multiple. So if I click on this one, a dialog box will pop up. I can come to the general tab. I can go to labor wraps and fees, currencies, exchange rates, production, direct labor rate. So I want to make everybody 90. I want to do the setup labor rate of 100. I want to set everybody's production optimization to high, very high, extra high. I want to make sure the product classification is now going to be high. Click on OK. Made all the changes I want to do, and I'm going to go next. What do I want to include? Everything is selected by default. I don't want to do the core, but then everything else I do, click on finish, and that's going to make those changes here all the way down through, and it's updated in mass. So that's a nice thing to be able to do when you have a large assembly. So for today, I think that's probably enough to consume. So we've been through the general tab. We will do the process specific when we have our individual work elements. We'll go through machining, fabrication, composites, etc. The tooling tab we'll do in the next one, inspection and rework, part mark and packaging, and we will cover them during the other one so we can be more specific about what we're selecting in the tooling and inspection operations. So thank you for today. I hope that's been of benefit too. We've covered a lot of information, and hopefully this will help you with your manipulation of SEER for manufacturing and get good, credible results, and stay safe. Pass you back to Steve.
Thank you, Keith. As Keith has just said, we've given you, there's a lot of information to take there. SEER for manufacturing is quite a in-depth tool, but hopefully what we've given you is enough of an overview and enough of an insight to get you comfortable in setting things up, working through things, knowing where you can find information. And as we get into more detail, as Keith was saying, we'll get into the detail of how we go about estimating machined components specifically and fabricated components specifically, and then we'll look into those very detailed parameters about what considerations need to be taken into account. But for now, hopefully that's given you a feel and a flavour and an insight and a desire to learn more and know more, which we will be happy to fulfill. As I said at the beginning, if you've got any questions, Keith and I, our details are on the screen. Please feel free to get in touch. We are more than happy to answer any and all queries. And as Keith also said, stay safe, stay well, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Keith.
Steve, thank you.